Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hey there, Kate.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, guys. Today, we are going to dig in and get a little tactical. We are going to talk about a fundamental element of copywriting that I think a lot of people overlook. And because a lot of people overlook it, some people do it very badly. So let's make sure that none of us are those people who do it badly. What are we talking about? We're talking about a call to action. So, Kate, what is a call to action?
A call to action is what you want the next step that you want the user to take in the user journey. So it's literally the action that you want them to take, and you're calling them to do it, which is why it's called a call to action. So CTA, you might see it abbreviated as often. That's usually what you'll use in your copy doc. So because it is the action that you want the user to take, this might look like shop now or buy now. Apparently I want you to shop and buy now, but it could also be like learn more or read more or request more information or get the 5 tips or anything like that. And so you'll notice all of these start with an action, which generally you want them to do because you're telling the user what it is that you want them to do and setting the expectation and making it clear what's going to happen if they click that button. So for example, if they're downloading something, it might be like download now. You would expect the download to start at that point. Or if you're signing up for something, you'd expect to go somewhere where you can enter your information to sign up. So you're thinking through what makes most sense for whatever the next thing is going to be in that experience.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of your copy will have these.
Yeah, exactly. There really kind of a differentiation in copywriting between direct response copywriting and branding copywriting. Branding copywriting being the the ads that you see sometimes that you go, well, what am I supposed to do with that? You know, like I think of the Skittles copywriting, excuse me, the Skittles Super Bowl ads,
Super Bowl,
where
yeah.
you go, all right, well, now I'm more aware of Skittles, but it's not like you told me to go and buy some Skittles. Awareness campaigns where you're like, all right, well, now I know about this. That being said, the vast majority of copywriting that you will ever do is direct response, meaning that you want people to do something, to take an action. And I would say that 95% of the copywriting you'll ever do is, if not 100, is direct response copywriting. In the entire copywriting industry, branding awareness copywriting is probably like 5%, and it steadily decreasing. Part of what makes copywriting so useful is that it tells people what to do. It gets people to do what you want them to do. And again, it could be shop or buy now, but it could be to sign up for a newsletter. It could be to read more. It could be, but every interaction that a company or an organization has with a reader or a follower or a user, they have something that they want to take them to next in the customer or the user journey. And that's what the call to action is all about, is taking them to that next place. Now, one of the ways that a lot of people get this wrong is that, like Kate, you were saying, that making it really clear what's coming next. If it's not clear what's going to happen next, it's not an effective call to action. And actually, to be totally transparent, we had to just pause this recording because we were trying to think of an example of a call to action, because we do see them regularly, but we skip over them. And we're so used to writing call to action. So we had to look for an example of a bad call to action, but we certainly found some. Join the adventure was one we came across. And did it even say what the site was for?
I believe it was for coffee.
Coffee. Join the adventure. What does that mean? Your call to action should be simple and it should be concise, and people should instantly understand what it means and what's going to happen next. Join the adventure. Where is that going to take them?
On an adventure, I think.
Exactly. Whoa, a coffee adventure. the person who's reading the copy should immediately understand. There should be no questions, no thinking, nothing like that. There was a design book that I read years ago called "Don't Make Them Think,"
Mm.
and really, that's kind of all you need to read it if you want to. But just that line itself, don't make people think. Make it super duper clear. It's something else like be part of the family. What on earth does that mean? What is going to happen when I click this button or when I do this thing? It needs to be incredibly clear.
And I think where some of these come from is obviously a copywriter trying to maybe be in the brand voice and trying to add a little bit of personality to this area. But as we were saying, well, we were like talking about these examples beforehand, that this is not the area that you want to add personality necessarily. It's what you want to be so simple, so clear. And you have to remember that people might not read all of your copy. So they might read the headline and then the call to action. They might skip the body copy, or, they might skim some subheaders depending obviously on the piece of copy and what, how much there is before the call to action and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But the point being, if they don't have they might not have full context looking at your call to action. If you still want them to click that button, then it needs to be super, super clear, and it can't be too convoluted and tied up with they have to read the entire piece of copy to understand the call to action. If they have to read everything to understand the call to action, that's just going to happen 0.01% of the time, if at all.
Mm-hmm.
I always joke that I think the only person that reads all my copy is my mom. God love her. No one else does. And that's okay. I don't read all of the copy I see out in the world. That's just
Mm-hmm.
how we operate. So remembering that when you're writing that call to action, that needs to be just as impactful as your headline and just as clear as your headline.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And to that point about not getting caught up in trying to be cute and, oh, this is the place where I'm going to put in the brand voice. Won't this be fun? Your call to action is not the place for fun. Plenty of other places for fun within your copy, not your call to action. Couple of other examples we found were a button that said, coffee. What on earth happens? And who's like, what? I have no more words for that. What? And then what was the other one, Kate? Oh, the example that you had.
Yeah, I want this.
I,
Or first of all, I think sometimes it throws off very subtly, and I don't know that people will notice it, but I think subconsciously they will, in the sense that if you're speaking to the customer as you the whole time, and then suddenly it's I want this, it completely changes how you're talking to the customer, because obviously you're not talking in first person. Who's I at that point? Is it you? Is it the customer? And it's not clear, again, like to go back to that point. It's I want this, but where am I going to go? I want this, but if I hit this, what's going to happen to me?
Exactly. Am I going to get a sign up form? Am I going to be taken to a purchase page? Am I going to be taken to a cart page? Is it already going to be in my cart? Are you going to take me to a place where I have to make a phone call to someone? All of this stuff makes it so much more difficult and for the reader to understand, and vastly decreases the chances that they will actually take that action that you want them to take.
And frankly, it might make them hesitant in a case like that, in the sense that now that we have Amazon and you can do the one-click buy now, I get very hesitant to be like, what's going to happen? Am I doing something that's irreversible?
Mm-hmm.
Most things aren't, but it's still, if you put that hesitancy in someone to second guess or rethink what they're going to do, then they're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And sometimes too, specificity. You can write a call to action and it can be clear, but if it's not specific, it can trip things up. You could be on a spa website and you'd say, get a massage. Okay, well, is that going to take me to a scheduling page? Is that going to take me to learn more about the massage? Is that going to take me to a place where I purchase the massage? If it's obviously, well, maybe not obviously, clearly not obviously, if it's a place where if you're taking me to a page where I'm going to be able to schedule my massage or schedule my services, the button, the call to action should
Schedule.
be schedule now, or schedule your services, or something like that. Specificity and clarity is what you want to be aiming for when it comes to your call to action. And that's, we're talking about buttons a lot, but calls to action are not just for digital pieces. They are for print pieces as well. They are for in videos as well. It still needs to be clear and specific. And it doesn't necessarily have to be short either. I know we said, well, buy now or shop now, but it could be on a letter. It could be, call, insert phone number to ask your senator about, I don't know, issue, something like that. Clarity and fill in the
Issues.
blanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Fill in specific issues. Yeah.
Mad libs with
Yeah.
CTAs, but clarity and specificity in no matter what the medium is.
Yeah. And I think where this might trip copywriters up, and one thing you want to definitely do when you're doing your creative brief at early stage in your writing, you want to make sure you ask the client to see what's coming before the thing you're working on and what's coming after. Where does your piece live within the user journey? So you want to understand the entire user journey and where your piece fits in. So where are they coming from? Are they clicking an ad to get to where you are? And that'll influence the context of what you put on there. And what does that ad copy say? And how can you build off of that and maintain consistency with that? And then where are they going after? And same thing, if that piece is already written, how can you maintain that consistency in voice, but then also making sure the call to action, that's the piece that comes after, is obviously really, really important to know where you're driving them and what that looks like. So get all of that information up front from your client. If they can't provide it to you, they need to provide it to you. That's otherwise this lives in a vacuum, and nothing really lives in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. So where in the user journey is this? Mm-hmm. Figure out what that looks like.
Yeah. And don't overcomplicate it either. If you're thinking, well, they want me to write an ad, and then the ad is going to take them to a page where it's going to give them more information. Okay. Learn more. Get more details. That is a perfectly valid call to action too. It doesn't all have to be make a call or make a purchase. Like, learn more is perfectly fine. However, make sure that your call to action makes sense within the context as well, because call to action like, well, next is okay only in the sense of like you're filling out a multi-page form, right? You're on a website unfortunately, what came to mind is government websites, which are terrible. So don't take those as an example. But if you're filling out a multi-page form and maybe it shows you how many more pages you have to go through, if you name, address, phone number, the bottom it says next. Okay. Go to the next page, probably even a little bit more clear. But in that context of filling out a form, people understand that next is going to take them to the next portion. But let's say you're on a website and you're learning about dog training and you're interested in potentially hiring these people to train your dog. What on earth does next at the bottom of that page mean? Next, what? What comes next?
For sure. And so I know you mentioned print versus digital. And so that's another thing to consider when you're writing your calls to action. So if you're on the internet, obviously, or I shouldn't say obviously, you don't need to put out in the call to action, visit www.xyzcompany.com. You can hyperlink text, you can make it a button, you can do all sorts of things that you don't have to spell out a web address of where they're going next or what you want them to do. So keep in mind the medium when you're writing your call to actions. If you're doing something like a radio ad or a print brochure, then yeah, if you want someone to visit to a website, if you want to get them online after listening to something, then you need to spell out. And hopefully, if it's a really long website, you want to talk with your client about getting a vanity URL, which is essentially just a very short, xyz.com/happy or whatever, the super easy word. People know how to spell it. They can remember it. And there's increases the chance that they will go from whatever they're listening and type in their phone or type in their computer, that web address. It's really hard to get people from a print/audio to go type something in. So you want to make that step as easy as possible. And so same thing with a print postcard. Again, you want to make that URL as short as possible, because if people have to do work, which typing in a URL is, you're like, that's so easy. It's work. Notice the next time you get a print piece and whether or not you visit a website. Obviously, QR codes are kind of coming back post-pandemic. That is an option, but
it's an option, but it's
not
a call to action.
It's not
in
a
itself.
fail-safe. Yep.
You cannot just put a QR code on anything.
Yep.
And assume that people are going to just, because they don't know.
Or assume that the people know how, depending on,
That's true,
there were plenty of people I've noticed at restaurants and they're like, hey, do you have a printed menu? I don't carry my cell phone out to dinner, or I don't know, I have a dumb phone. There's a lot. You want to make it accessible as possible for whoever your audience is.
Exactly. And the rules still apply. Check out our menu. Use the QR code below to check out our menu. You can't just put a QR code somewhere and assume that it's not a call to action. A button with no text is not a call to action. You have to tell people what to do and let them know.
And what they're going to get.
And what they're going to get. Exactly.
Yeah, go to this QR code. Is it going to be scary? We're going to go to some random website. You never know.
This is very, very true. Very true. Yes.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is calls to action are very, very important and crucial. There's almost no point to copywriting if you're not going to give someone a next step to take. Even if it's stay tuned for the next episode, which you may hear that coming up soon, or keep your eyes on your inbox for tomorrow's email, something like that. But you have to give people that next step. At the same time, though, you have to be clear and you have to help them understand what is going to happen when they take that next step.
Yeah. And one note on a common call to action, which is click here or click for blah, 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 blah. A lot of things often start with click. It feels like a very antiquated, back in the day, internet starting, that you need to tell people to click. One thing to note now is often people aren't clicking. They're tapping, they're swiping, they're doing something on their device that is a different motion than click. One thing you can do, because sometimes it works. Sometimes click here or click to get, again, specificity, where they're going to get if they click. Sometimes it works. So test it. If you have a client that's drawn to that language, see if you can test that language. And that goes for any call to action. If there's an opportunity to test, you might want to do that, because the copy on the CTA really can make a huge difference in whether people are clicking through or not. So click here, typically not the best, not the strongest copy. It feels very but if it's working,
it may depend on your audience. To your point, Kate, like if it's a less tech savvy audience, you may need to say, click here to get your download, or right click here to say, that kind of thing, versus get your download right here. So to Kate's point, absolutely test your copy, or have your client test your copy. Yeah. Okay. So a relatively short one, but an important one. And we hope it's a lesson that all of you take to heart as you write your copy, because it's going to come up with every single piece of copy that you write. So maybe this is one that you star or save and come back to. And with that, we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Oh, no, wait, I didn't do a call to action. I take it back. Guys, come back for the next episode. Oh, and if you haven't yet, subscribe.
Next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Subscribe. That's a better CTA for this.
There you go. Yeah.
So then you don't miss it.
Exactly. Subscribe to the podcast and then come back for the next episode.
You get a present every Wednesday.
Exactly. All right. Bye, everybody. Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for our free video training right here.